One of the things about Sorare that I really enjoy is the strategizing phase. It's waiting for the season to start and thinking about all the possibilities that could yet come to be, thinking about what players I'm going to bring in, who I'm going to play with who, what competitions I'm going to put them in, and dreaming, hoping, praying, thinking about how high they might get me up on the leaderboard and how often they might get me actually up there. But one element that plays a huge factor in every Sorare scouter manager's success or failure is the amount of depth that they've got at their disposal, the amount of quality options that you can rotate between depending on the different form, fixtures, the availability of the players, leagues and clubs that you'll be covering, you'll be building in to your Sorare strategy. And in the video today, I'm going to be laying out all the different layers of depth I've got for the upcoming season in an effort to show you all the various stages of the journey that I think every Sorare scouter manager goes through, because everyone starts off with 0 cards. Everyone buys their first card, and let's see by the end of the season how many cards you end up with. This will be my 5th season playing Sorare, so I've got some really evolved strategies that are really robust and really well catered for in terms of depth and quality of selection. But there's other competitions that I'm not that fussed about, but I still do have working viable strategies for that will illustrate this pretty well. If you're brand new to Sorare and you've never played before, there's a link in the description of this video that when you click on that link and open up your account directly, you'll get $50, pounds, euros, whatever your native currency is, of market credit to help you go and reinforce your squad for the upcoming season once you've bought 5 cards of any price from auctions or instant buy. And one random person between now and the beginning of the Premier League season that clicks on that link and opens up their Sorare account is going to get a signed Premier League jersey of their choice, subject to availability, of course. By clicking on that link, you support me and all the content here at the channel, and I thank you in advance if you do so. If you do get stuck, or if you've got any questions or whatever, jump into the comment section and I'll come and sort you out. But at any point in this video, if you do laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this, not just Sorare based, but real world football, transfer analysis, and all the breakdowns of the leagues and matches that we're going to be covering throughout the 24-25 season. It should be the biggest season ever on the channel. And in this video, we're going to be focusing a lot on the features and the availability of tools that we've got on Sorare data. Now, if you don't have Sorare data are giving us a bunch of 72-hour star memberships to you guys for free. If you want to be in a chance of getting them, what I need from you guys is to drop your Sorare username in the comment section, along with your primary competition. What is the main thing you're going to be competing for this year, and the sort of level of depth that you're playing with. And yeah, let's just get stuck straight into it. Now, what I thought I would do with this video is I thought I would start off with the weakest strategy I've got and then work up from there. Because I do think the weakest strategy I've got at the moment paints a pretty good picture of the sort of hurdles and obstacles you should expect to overcome, as well as some of the benefits that you maybe need to wait a little bit further down the road to actually feel into your club. And for me, the weakest competition that I'm going to be playing in is going to be the Challenger Classic or Challenger in season. But as you can see here, I've got 3 goalkeepers, but 2 of them play for the same team. So I've got a handcuff situation. I've got, a definite number 1 between the 2 of them. And then I've got another guy who used to play for the same team that plays somewhere else. But I've only got 2 actual goalkeepers here, which means that if I'm looking at 2 goalkeepers, I'm going to have a number 1 and a number 2. Who's the better guy? Who's got the better fixture? Who's in better form? Who's at home? And then I've got the option of dropping the other guy into the second team, which is great. Now, at a glance, in defence, you might actually think there's a lot of options here. There's a good amount of players, certainly. But the way my collections are built up, which, a lot of people, when they start their Sorare club for the first time, they're going to buy into the team that they support, they follow, they know a lot more about, and they'll build a bit of a collection. And a collection can give you this false sense of security of, oh, I've got 8 defenders. Well, do you know what? They're not going to all play every weekend, and they're not all going to play that good, because even if they do all play, you don't get a full defence ringing out 100-point scores. It just doesn't happen. So here I've got a bit of a mixture of different profiles and different players from across European and world football. But certainly if you look at the bottom 4 players here, they're somewhat unusable in this strategy. I'd probably put Bernabé in there as well. So I'm only really looking at Tavon Gray, Mickey Yaman, Thiago Martins, and then Amundsen and Chanot, kind of 50-50 guys. So I've only actually got like 3 pretty reliable defenders. And Thiago Martins is a real bland centre-back. He brings in low 50 scores, doesn't really do much more than that. Your man can be a little bit better. And Tavon Gray is a slightly better version of Mickey Yaman. But with some of these guys back here, what they originally were was like Chanot and Amundsen played for NYC. So these were all kind of handcuff situations where I could list out the full NYC team no matter what the lineup was and I'd be fine. But those guys have actually transferred now, which is really good for my gallery because it means like Chanot can play for LAFC and it doesn't affect Thiago Martins, and Malte Amundsen can play for the Columbus Crew and equally it doesn't affect anyone in the club here. So it does give me some more options. But as you can see here, what Sorare data shows you on the L5 and the L15, the last 5 and 15 games they've played, is a little percentage bar, and that's how often they've appeared in the L5 and in the L15. So as you can see with some of these guys, like Chanot's pretty good in the last 5, but not L15, and Amundsen does miss some games, and as you can see, these guys just never ever play. But this is like the minimum I would want to have for a 2 goalkeeper play is 3 defenders I can close my eyes and go, they're going to play 90% of the matches for their club, if they're available, fitness-wise, and they can score maybe just about enough. Now, Thiago Martins is not a top tier. He's not a Team 1 level player for me. So that's going to be between Mickey and Tavon, depending on the fixtures. And for this example we've got in front of us here, I'm probably going to go Tavon at home to the Chicago Fire. In midfield, it kind of looks the same at a glance, but when it comes to my best team, my tippy top team, not a lot of these players are going to cut the mustard. Not a lot of them are going to touch the sides and actually make a big difference here. And you can see from the scores and the play percentages that we've got here on Sorare data, you know, you don't even need to name them. There is only actually maybe Keaton Parks just about squeaks in here, but you're really looking at these top 4 or 5 cards, if they're all fit and available and going to be playing, that are real viable options that come into the reckoning for me. And look at this in attack. There is barely any depth, barely any cover. And for 2 teams, we're really looking at Johnny Russell, Liel Abada, and that's kind of it. Everyone else is very wishy-washy and somewhat unreliable. So if I just go and fill this out real quickly, put Santi Rod in there as the next best player with Captain Ryan Gold. We hit the save button. And now that we go to build the second team out of this is where the depth is really going to show, because Freeze and Johnson, pretty easy-ozy in terms of goalkeepers. But again, in defence, if Thiago Martins or Mickey Yaman were not available, if you can imagine this for a second, there's just not that much option, not that much quality in and behind where I could reasonably go, yeah, that defence is going to be super solid. So this is, like I say, a very young, a very undeveloped strategy that I've got on the go, despite having numbers there and reinforcements. But this would resemble to me, in terms of the amount of actual viable options, a lot of Sorare managers' first squad. You know, you make sure that first 5 was nice and strong, and you've maybe got some other players that you like, he got cheap, maybe they're injured when you picked them up, maybe you're hoping for a transfer. But then in the cold light of day, when it comes to actually picking the guys in the fixtures, maybe the likes of your Amundsens and Chanots are not quite as obviously safe, and then you don't have the ability to play them. Subsequently, then they're not really an option. And again, we've got our big power players, we've got our captain capable midfielders in Team 1. And although this Team 2, like if Forsberg's fit, he's definitely a guy that can play in here. Johnny Russell we know all about. And then there's some backup guys for forward. There's not much going on there at backup for forward. But then outside of that, like you're asking to really know the guys. You're asking to really know the fixture. Who's going to play? Who's going to have a good game? Is it going to be somebody like Maxi Morales, who is a bit more exciting, a bit more peaky? Or is it someone like a James Sands or a Keaton Parks, a bit more of a box-to-box midfielder? Maybe you take that extra defender and somebody like a Chanot or an Amundsen, a Malachi Jones. There's a few different options, but I say they're just less exciting, aren't they? And with this Challenger Classic strategy, like for me, really, like I'm not expecting too much. I really hope I've got one team that can go into this competition and get me some essence, get into some boxes, maybe, you know, pull some cards once in a while. But as far as Team 2 goes, for me, that would be a huge question mark. I wouldn't be putting too much stress or too much onus on improving that second team at this stage, because even as I look at the first team, you know, outside of the midfield, which is great, but there is only 2 of them, I wouldn't say those guys are all necessarily out-and-out Team 1 players. So if I was to look at reinforcing my Challenger strategy here to get into the Team 3, to have 3 lineups going, I'd be looking to add in guys that could theoretically play in my first team here. And I'm talking about guys that I would know, that I would be able to identify as, yeah, they would actually give me a lot of food for thought. They would give me a lot of problems in trying to work out who is actually in my top 5. Whereas for these 2 squads, and if we were to even build a third team just for example purposes, let's imagine Barraza plays for another team and he's a starting keeper. The defense options, like, look, they're just not that exciting. Martins is stable. Amundsen could be exciting. So again, these are the levels of options that we've got at Team 3. We've got Parks and Sands, we've got Magno and Larson and Malachi Jones and whatever. But this team isn't going to win anything. This team isn't going to do anything. And thinking about players that would come into Team 3, that would come into Team 2, isn't really actually going to make this strategy any better, because if the guys in the first team are like not on it, injured, suspended, not in form or whatever, it's less likely like a team 3 guy that would fit to just make that team better could actually make their way into your first team. And that's the way I would always be thinking about when you've got that first squad or two. Like the first one, yeah, it looks kind of good. It can probably rock out hard enough. But rather than thinking, right, well, let me go build another team, let's build team 2, team 3, it's more about make team 1 better, get more options for team 1, and then we'll see the benefit of that further down the food chain, as it were. And the best example of what I'm trying to get across here now is my contender strategy. I'm now into my 4th season of picking up Celtic cards. And when you see the sort of players I've got available here, it will really help you understand what I'm trying to get at here. Now, with them all being Celtic cards, it's maybe a little bit moot the point because Celtic are a dominant team in their domestic setting. But you'll see in Champion Euro how I've managed to do a similar thing. Now, I've got 4 goalkeepers here, and I have bought some in-season cards. So I do want my in-season cards to play in the in-season. So I've actually got 2 goalkeepers that would qualify for that, but we're going to put Ross Laidlaw in alongside Ralston and Kuhn as the first couple of guys that I've got in here. Now, for the actual in-season competition, I will need another actual in-season player, as it were, like my boy Marius Broholm, who I won earlier this season. And then we can play 1 classic cards. Now, if you've got like a really strong strategy, a really strong club, a dominant club, there's a captain, there's a talisman in there. And if you have one of them and you put him in this team, then you're not going to have him anywhere else. But the main man, of course, for Celtic is Matt O'Reilly. And, you know, who knows what happens to Big Matt over the summer. Let's see how that shakes out. And the second in command for me would be Rio Hatate. And as you can see, I've already got 4 Rio Hatates, 2 mids, a forward, and a defender. So there's no way that there's not going to be an Hatate ready for every team this season. So we can put him in there as a play saver and we can save that in-season lineup. And again, when it comes to the goalkeepers, we're trying to pick the best guys depending on the best fixture. In this example, we've got 1st versus 15th away from home, 6th versus 11th. And this season hasn't started yet, so we don't know where they'll be. But Braunschweig get absolutely spanked quite often in the Bundesliga 2 last year, and Cologne are at home. So I would think Urbig would be my number 1 goalkeeper. Now, Celtic are a team that you kind of stack and you play the numbers with because you know they're going to maybe only lose 4 matches this season or something like that. So you know going week to week that they're probably going to win the match. And if they don't, it will be a surprise. It will be an upset. So this is definitely where I'm going to be building my first team from. And it's dead easy to run through defender, midfielder, and forward and think, who do I think can score the best? Who's going to get a goal and assist? Who's going to get a lot of AA? Whatever it might be. Now, the 5th man could very easily be a Celtic player, but if there's not an obvious option, then I do need to have somebody out with Celtic that I know has got the potential to smash a 100, get over 80 points more often than not. They'll make sure I've got a bit of a differential on my hands, as well as somebody that's not overly linked to the Celtic results. So the Celtic didn't have a great result, but it did okay enough SO5 scores. I've got somebody outside of that could really push it over the top. And for this example, we'll put in Ivan Rakitic. We can pick our second goalkeeper. We can get our next best defender card that we want, our next best midfielder, which, because I've got multiple season strategies here, I'm able to call upon the same faces over and over again. And they don't actually, you know, I've got multiple cards, I've got multiple copies. So I can really pick and choose the battles that I want to play and who I think could score the best on the day. We go double defender with this one. We've got a forward Hatate card, which is nice and clutch. And then when we get on to Team 3, this is really where I think you're going to see the stark difference in having lots of different options and quality of depth. Because although I've got a really strong Celtic strategy, as soon as we get this goalkeeper plugged in, like I can still call upon, how many of them actually are there? I've still got a Carter Vickers, a Taylor, a Scales that we could call upon. But we've also got somebody like a Halstenberg, who again, like I mentioned earlier, is immune to the Celtic situation. He's at home to Hamburg in this game week, which Hamburg should be pushing for promotion. That'll be probably quite a tough game that I want to avoid. I think away to St Mirren, I'd maybe choose, as long as we don't sign another left back at this stage, maybe somebody like a Taylor, because he can be quite spiky, he can be quite peaky. We've still got an Hatate for midfield. And again, I can get quite a strong squad in, but you can probably see the difference in strength already. It's not too different, I would say. I think it's more just covering the different variables. Like if Daisamaya doesn't get the goal, you hope that Kyogo does. If O'Reilly doesn't smash a big score, maybe it's Hatate. But then again, like we've used them once or twice already, but as you can see through this, we've got guys like Falcao, Edeguchi, Berardi, Giacomakis, Ominami, Lennon Miller, Albion Ajeti, Marcel Halstenberg, Eo Tanaka. We've got some guys that are really powerful standalone players that could come in here and push this over the top. But looking at the individual fixtures, the way they sit them out, and imagining there's no more transfers or whatever, I'd probably look at somebody like Eo Tanaka, who's playing away from home, to maybe be my kicker card to push me over the top on this one. And really, like, when I look at those 3 teams there, I think you can kind of see a best team to a weaker team, if that makes sense. But really, if you zoom out, the difference in quality between all 3 of those teams isn't really that different. So I can really run a really strong strategy there that's quite laser focused, and I can think about it being really competitive across all 3 of those lineups. I can mix and match, I can rotate different players around to make sure that really like every team is capable of banging as hard as absolutely possible, because these classic teams, what they're going to do is win as in-season cards. And for your primary strategy, you know, whatever club or league you're really focusing in on, that is a big part of the game, is winning money and winning cards. The classic competition is really about winning the cards, and when you get those winning cards for the in-season, you take them to the in-season venue, and then you're looking to go and win actual money. Now, we've only used 1 Hitate card in here. I don't think that's really diminished the quality that we've got here. But if I was to go on, and let's imagine this was full of new in-season cards, it would need to be 4 of them. Do I have 1 classic player still that's really good, that could hit 70 or above, that I've not called upon yet? Well, at a glance, I would think so. I've got Halstenberg, I've got Carter Vickers, Scales if he plays, Furuhashi, 2 Callum McGregors, and then another couple of Dysons, a Giacomakis. There's plenty of different options that could be slung in here, no problem about it. And if we even just complete the picture like so, this is like maximum depth. This is complete coverage. And there's still some players that qualify for this region that maybe they don't have a match in this game week, but they weren't in the lineup builder for it, which is why I was saying earlier, Sorare scouts and managers spend a lot of time on this, because sometimes you're looking for the perfect game week where everyone is playing and you can see how your depth shakes out. Equally, like, I am doing this for a really big game week, so I can go through all the different competitions or whatever, but I do think it's very valuable to maybe look at some of those weeks where you've only got Celtic, or maybe you don't have the Celtic, you need to use your other pieces, and how would they cobble together? How strong could that look potentially? Now, before we can get into the Champion Euro depth kind of coverage and the sort of options we need to have available to us, for me, I need to fill out my super rares first of all, and there's a little punchline that we'll get to. Maybe some of you know where this is going already, but we'll just thrash this one out very quickly. I'm expecting to have 2 teams in La Liga and 2 teams in Champion at the super rare level, where I'm hoping to win cards, money, you know, all that kind of good stuff. Soria is at home to Vallecano, Killison's away to Leganés, and again, lots of choices here. I think all these guys pretty much play. Kuto's actually moved to the Bundesliga. That's probably not translated through here, but as you can see, like, all these guys are Girona, and they're all playing Atletico Madrid away from home, which is not good. So I need to have some other guys in another club. I've got 2 guys at Sociedad, which should be a decent enough fixture for the most part, which helps me build my defence and midfield certainly. But when I get to up front, I can look at somebody like a Devikas. I could maybe still look at a Saganikov, but I'll just keep this quite coherent. We'll put Oyarzabal in for the kind of base stack, and then who would my wild card be here? Maybe somebody playing Atletico Madrid, or maybe a Mark Roca who's away to Alaves in this game week. That could be really good. And we've got Sol at home to Villarreal. I think we'll go for Roca, because I just think he could score really well in a match like that. And that leaves me then with Killison. I'm probably going to take Miguel Gutierrez on this one, because I think I'm going to need to play some Girona players. Or am I? Yeah, I'm going to play Miguel. I'm going to back him. I'm going to play Ivan Martin, who can get into the box and do some stuff. Do I want to play Saganikov, Devikas? I think I would just go somewhat Girona on this one. But Sol is playing Villarreal. I don't know if he's worthwhile as a differential, or maybe I just play Yangel Herrera in there, or Arnau Martinez, and just go full on. But yeah, Sevilla at home, they should be a bit better than the average bear, as it were. And maybe I'd captain Sol just for the real punch factor in this one. And then in Champion, wow, I've got Skorupski away to Napoli, and I've got Mandanda away to Strasbourg. Let's say Mandanda is probably get the better match there. Angelino's at home to Empoli. Quattra's at home to Venezia. That could be really good. So I've got some actually pretty good Champion fixtures this week that don't fall into La Liga, which just gives me that extra level of quality and depth. In midfield, we've got Kamada at home at West Ham, catching my eye. We've got Koopmeiners, who's still listed at Atalanta. We'll see if he moves to Juventus. His fixture could look really different after that transfer goes through. And Aliesh and Goretzka, it's really hard to judge if they're actually going to start at this point. And this is one of the main exercises that I'm trying to discover right now, is when I look at these guys, how many of them right now do I feel, yeah, I could play you in a team? McGinn at home at Arsenal, I don't mind, but I don't know if that's a team 1 play, because it is a hard match, and there is lots of other players here, and a bit closer to the time, that decision will be easier to understand and to make. But I think Kamada at the moment is a good placeholder, a good guy to come in. And again, when it comes to strikers, like if you're not paying attention to preseason, it will make your decisions quite hard. But I know all these guys are performing really well in preseason, especially Tati Castellanos. So I think I really want him to come in to be my striker in this team. And then to fill it out with a fifth man, I'm just going to put Coop Miners in here because at Atalanta or Juventus, he probably makes this team anyway. And I'm going to captain Angelino since he's at home. Take some set pieces, could get a clean sheet bonus. And then we're on our last goalkeeper. Now, the quality of depth now might not be that great. We've got Ayer away to Liverpool. We've still got those Spanish guys that we've seen. I think Quatra is actually the best shout here. He's got a good game. I've not needed him for any other division quite comfortably, which is nice. McGinn probably comes into this midfield, which is fine. And then in attack, I do like Cunha at home to Chelsea. That just feels like it could be a lot of fun. But Werner at home to Everton, if he's going to play, it's really between those two who plays. Like, I think Cunha definitely plays. Werner's a bit of a unknown element. So let's just say Cunha is the man. And then really for the fifth man, I could really leave it until the last minute and try and work this out. But sitting looking at it now, if I had to make a decision and think ahead to who's likely to play, who's likely to score a good amount of points and, you know, be somewhat reliable, it's hard to not look at Aliesh and Leon getting into a team here, but it might actually be Werner or De Vicus. Could be anyone, really. Let's play Aliesh. I'm going to assume he's not went to Leverkusen to sit on the bench, and we'll make him captain. Let's imagine he's got some set pieces. And the reason we've had to do that first is because now all those extra super rares I've got actually play into a nice bit of depth for my rare collection. And this is something that hadn't really dawned on me until I started doing this exercise before coming on video and doing it. And it was one of these things that I've seen everywhere. Like, a lot of in-season cards can be really expensive. I think Andy Laird over at Sorare Data, who obviously got a special link for us for this video, shared a lovely tweet, and it was showing an in-season limited card and in the classic rare version of the same player. And you might know from the way I've explained this to you, or the way I've set it up, the prices of them were the wrong way around. Like, the limited in-season was more expensive than the classic rare. So if you really do believe in a guy, or if you do think at some point you might move from limiteds to rares or whatever, I would always look at the different prices of a player you're interested in across the scarcities in case one of them seems like out of whack for you. Like, if a guy's a £10 limited but a £30 rare, if you really like him and you really believe in him, picking up the rare could be a much better option for your own depth to move up later on. But equally, like, for price appreciation, you know, rares will raise higher in price than unlimited. So that was just a wee interesting footnote I thought I would slide into this here. I've got 4 goalkeepers. Maybe, depending on the transfer business, maybe Geronimo really comes back to La Liga. But I'm starting this in Champion. I kind of know I want to have a La Liga team as well. But with 4 goalkeepers, I've got a good amount of depth. If I was only to think about 3 teams here, I could leave one out and it wouldn't bother me, but I can then pick the 3 best goalkeepers rather than like you've seen with the other scarcities, the other competitions we're in, where I've got the exact amount of goalkeepers for the amount of entries we're going to be doing, where I need to play them all. And if I don't have one of them available, then I'm a team down. In this case, I've got 4, maybe 5, where really, and if I was only to play Classic Champion, I only need 3 of them. So if someone's got a crap fixture, I can easily sideline them. It's no problem at all. Let's take Van der Voort at home to Bochum. And as you can see at rare, I've got a lot more defenders. And he's sprinkling some of those super rares there. It gets even bigger. But again, a lot of these guys are maybe a bit more fixture dependent. They're not easy to nail on week in, week out. Like Guardiol, Robbo, let's see how they kind of shake out. It's hard not to pick Guardiol as the #1 guy. Of course, Olmo feels like he's going to Barca, and that would really change his predicament. But again, in midfield, I'm looking for guys that are goal scorers, guys that are key fundamental playmakers, guys that can make the difference for their squad. And as we scroll down this, again, there's a lot of good quality of depth of options here for wingers, defensive midfielders, attacking midfielders, box-to-box midfielders. There's all sorts of shapes and sizes here. I think Wirtz stands out as being one of my better options quite comfortably. And then when we look at forwards, we've got all those super rares from before, and we've got some rare cards as well. Maybe not quite as many options at rare as I would have hoped or liked. Taki Kubo's a great option, but I like to see Openda there at home at Bochum. Really big game for him. And I think we could play somebody like Angelino as the 5th man and go double defence on this one. I don't know if I would captain Angelino again. Maybe I would, actually. Maybe I'd captain Guardiola at home at Ipswich. Feels like it could be better. But that's like my top champion team. The good quality of depth here as it looks like on paper. We'll see how that shakes out. But the next team I'm going to build is actually a La Liga Classic team, because I know I've got a good La Liga contingency here. At home to Girona, I'm going to avoid. I'd rather take Killison here. And then what good options do I have? Lenormand now plays for Atleti, so he'll be playing Girona. Does anyone else stand out? It's a great game. Not really, so I think we would take maybe Lenormand, but then that makes me want to play All Black, because then if you're going to take the defender, why not take the keeper? Let's just stick to the way I was going to do it. Braze is the main man in midfield. Does anyone jump out as being an option to compete against him or maybe take his place? Perhaps Saul. But I think Braze is my man in midfield. I've got Take Kubo in attack. And then really the fifth man, I've got lots of options. I could go double forward with the likes of Oyarzabal or Geraldo Becker. I could go double defence, double mid quite easily. There's lots and lots of options here for this top team. And this is the sort of quality of depth that I want across a league-specific competition like this. There's Saul. Let's put him in. Set-piece man that he is. We'll captain Braze. Because like when it is only one league, there's only so many good fixtures that'll actually be happening, and the more exposure you can have to them, or the less reliance you can have on a bad fixture going your way, the better. But that would be my top La Liga team, and I don't want that to interfere with Champ, Classic, Team 2 and Team 3. So if we have a look at Team 2, we've got All Black and Vasilj. Let's take the All Black. We could still call upon Robbo. Benjamin Henriks is a really good game there at home at Bochum, like we've seen before with the other RB Leipzig players. Quatra, who we've seen at Super Rares, get a really good level there for that rare card I have also. We've got a wee Jeremy Frimpong hiding down here as well. So again, for defence, look at how many defenders there are here. There's lots of options, lots of choices. Some of them great, some of them okay, some of them really questionable. But I think, like on the face of it, Robbo at home at Brentford is the play here. In midfield, I've still just got a few question marks over some of the guys that I think will be important to me, like Goretzka and co. I think Nkunku's in town. I think he'll be playing for Chelsea against Wolves, which will be a good game for him. And then in attack, I could play Werner, who's playing Everton. That's a really good match. Cherky, we don't know where he's at yet. A lot of these guys are away from home. But we've still got Tate Castellanos, who's got a great game. Let's put him in. And then the fifth man. This is tough, because I'd love to play Goretzka or Olmo. I just don't know where they're going to end up. And I'm just going to put Dani Olmo in here, because at Barca, at Red Bull, he's the main guy. He's going to play regardless. So I think I would put him in here in Team 2. And I'd maybe captain Tate on this one, just to lead the line. A very good AA base forward. Very good match. And then we got into Team 3. Now, we should see a real decrease in quality here, because I don't think my depth covers that well, that deep. But again, depending on the fixtures and your opinion on some of these guys, maybe it's a lot stronger than I think, because we still have Benjamin Henriks, we still have Lucas Quatra. So we've got two really strong defender shouts there that have got good fixtures and, you know, will be playing and could be key guys. I do think that Quatra and Benny are both really decisive capable, and it's quite hard to split them at the moment, but I think I would probably go for Benjamin Henriks on this instance. And in midfield, a lot of the great options have really dried up. I'm looking at Haidara, I'm looking at Perea, and then there's a lot of other guys here that are really wishy-washy that right now I'm crossing my fingers on so many of them getting a favourable change of situation. But I see Kaoru Mitoma down here playing Man United. I'm always going to fancy a bit of that. And then in attack, I think I would probably take Timo Werner at this stage. And then my fifth man is probably going to be somebody like a Parejo, who will take set pieces and be somewhat reliable. And then there is plenty of options here that once we get closer to the time, maybe gets adjusted ever so slightly. Just go with Captain Benny on this one, because he could be a really good AA-based player. And then when we look at the quality of depth options that I've got for the champion region overall, it's super rare we kind of crashed through that quite quickly. A lot of those guys did kind of pick themselves. Same with, oh no, the scarcities go together, so when I minimise that, they go away. But for La Liga, we've got a great Team 1. I think that can go quite competitive most game weeks. In this in particular game week, it's probably going to do quite well as well. Fingers crossed for game week 504 that this is. And then here's the champion super rares that you've seen before. But this is, I think, the sort of journey that most people see themselves getting to once they've gotten to to 3 teams. As you have a look across these squads here, there's a lot of Red Bull shirts scattered amongst them, and then some individual players that, you know, I've also got collections that they filter into as well, but they could be the wildcard extra pieces that you're bringing into your club to kind of boost them up. Now, part of the problem I've got with Champion, and this is a problem a lot of people will come into, and it can be a good problem if you do it right. I don't think I've quite nailed it, but I'm maybe not too far off of it. My players are of a very similar standing, so there's not a clear and obvious, like, this is the best guy, he goes in the best team, kind of like we did with the Challenger guys. Because I've been shopping in this region much longer, and I've bought guys that I've believed in and waited for a transfer to happen, or a change of manager, or whatever it might be, that I've got a lot of guys that are really equal, and I can now look at them without a kind of bias or a prejudice to, oh, well, he's my absolute smasher, he always goes into Team 1. That whole strategy for me feels like so many of the players are on such an even tilt that I can look at it quite objectively and just pick and choose the guys that have the best fixtures and will go together for the competition as best as possible. And ultimately, this is a sort of level you want to get it up to, where every captain in every team is an absolute smasher. You can really rotate between big options across whatever team you're going to prioritize. Maybe it's a lower division, maybe it's in season, maybe it's classic or whatever. But when you're playing, like if you look at the super rares I've got here, like, there is no real wiggle room. You know, there is only a few guys that really could lead the team out, that really could, you know, play a part in these lineups performing very well. And if they are playing Atletico Madrid away from home, then you're kind of stuffed, aren't you? You know, you need a few more bits of quality, a few more options to really take that bit of pressure off the fixtures being against you. And I don't think going through this exercise with you on the video today has really highlighted anything to me that I maybe wasn't somewhat aware of already. But it's nice to kind of have this fleshed out. And what I'll do, this is game week 504, is I'll probably end up doing this for 506, 502, 508, 510, and just try and see if anything else comes up as a result of it. But I do feel that, like you've seen in this video today, across all the different competitions that I play in, you need as much depth as possible. You need as many different options as you can relatively bring into your club so you can make the best decisions possible. I'd be really interested to hear what you guys think in the comment section of, you know, it's probably not going to be Challenger, but what do you think is actually the best build here? What do you think is actually the best strategy, the most comprehensive depth cover that I've maybe got here? My opinion is obviously quite clear in the video. It's Contender, but, you know, what do you think of Champion? Do you think it's better, the Super Rare, La Liga? You know, I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts and opinions on this, as well as any takeaways that you've had from this video as I've been laying this out and expressing what I'm thinking about when I'm building my teams and my lineups. If you've had a wee light bulb moment for yourself, I always love catching those comments on screen. And now some other stuff that I've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. I hope you enjoyed this one, guys. It's going to be an absolutely massive season, and I feel that I'm just about ready for it. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, get into the comment section, stay out of trouble, and I'll catch you on the next one.